Hello, I'm Robin, and this weekend was Machina Bristronica. Oh yes, it's a synth festival in the heart of Bristol, put on by Elevator Sound, their local synthesizer electronic music shop. And the last one was way back in 2019, so this is a bit of a return to what could be, perhaps, the UK Superbooth alternative. It's fun, fruity, and full of fabulous people doing fabulous things with fabulous machines. And I was there, and it was my first time. It was lovely. But what I thought I'd do, right, being as that like I'm some kind of YouTuber, is I thought I might do some video. I thought I could bring the vibe from Machina Bristronica back to you, back to your room, and show you what it's all about, and perhaps encourage you to go along next time. And so to do that, I employed the wonders of my 360-degree camera, which is sort of like it's got a camera on either side, and so it continues to take stuff and then it stitches it together automatically and lets you have this wonderful cinematic, surrounding, all-encompassing, immersive capturing of the entire event. I had no idea what I was doing. I'd had it for about 5 minutes and I'd used it once. So what you're about to see is possibly just the worst example of how well this camera can work. It both captures the entire event while actually showing you nothing at all. It's quite fascinating. But anyway, heck, I did it. I shot it. I've edited it down a little bit so it's at least watchable over a cup of coffee. And hopefully it will give you some idea of what this extraordinary event is all about. And then at the end, I'll take you through a couple of my highlights, which are really just brand new, things I've never seen before type things that I saw. So sit back and relax and enjoy me wandering through the massive halls and pokey places of Machina Bristronica 2023. Machina Bristronica. You cool? Good to see you, mate. Nice to see you, mate. Good to see you.
If you want to hang around, I have a little series going called Why Modular. If anybody wants to come and give me a little 10-second soundbite about why they're into modular, feel free. I'll have my camera and I'll be wandering around here. Thank you very much. Thank
Hello, Robin.
Hiya.
Not even remotely good. Is that you all done on your
I like your stuff, your panel.
push it in a certain sort of state where it sort of grows in a certain way.
Sorry, I'm just sweeping through. Thank you.
talking about linearizing exponential responses. You interested in this kind of responses?
Responses? Yeah, no, I'm instant response, I find. It's easy to way. No, just go with your gut.
What? Ah, yeah.
Gut, yeah.
That's what we did with the graduate.
Yeah, no thought whatsoever.
No.
Just go, oh yeah, let's do that.
Yeah. Pass by in a bit and let's have a chat.
Yes. I'm just poking this a bit.
It's an amazing thing.
Is it? No. It's a 360 camera. So, I don't know. I've had it like a day. So you can't see what you're doing. I can't, no. That's a worry. I probably can do something about that, but I don't know how. Because a little while ago it was no longer flashing, and I don't know for how long that was for. So I might have done nothing so far. So we'll see. You can afford to film 12 you can afford modulation as well. So if we take that and then
sound good?
It's going.
I don't know, I do feel like the result of that though is that, like, I don't know, the way I see it, especially like, you know, playing like a professionals event every week, like, I just feel like kids these days, just like, they don't really know what they want or like what's going on, and it's kind of hard, you really, I feel that energy of like, I'm like, okay, I've got to teach you what's going on here, but it's hard, I think it's just harder to develop that kind of tribe when there is no tribe.
Yeah, I get the argument for the tribe and the lack thereof and what implications that has maybe be negative in a lot of ways, but at the same time it's like we live in this, we've got so much accessibility to music, there's like discovery that can be made constantly, and that's the nature of UK music. From the beginning was all about discovering music and doing it our way, so it's going to continue to evolve, and it has been. And I mean, there's one thing as an artist I've enjoyed, feeling like I'm part of something that is going somewhere.
I've got mine that doesn't have
I haven't seen it yet, but a friend actually just saw it, so I guess we haven't
Sorry if I sit down.
So yeah, it was fairly cool, The camera sort of worked. It crashed at one point, which meant I had to do like the whole 10 minutes at the beginning. I had to redo again at the end, because when I sat down to see whether the footage was there, it just didn't exist. The camera just like went, oh, I don't know, and decided to no longer work. That's kind of the problem with using consumer electronics as opposed to some kind of professional rig. And also I appreciate that it's all kind of distorted and fisheye, but then that's the style of this sort of thing, because you're supposed to ultimately be on a snowboard, really, or something like that, or windsurfing, not walking around a bleeding synthesizer show. But anyway, there's lots I can do to improve upon the sort of footage that you get with a device like this. I just haven't quite spent the time to do that yet. I may also upload the entire 360 version, which you can do on YouTube, so you'll be able to go in there and move the view and pan and move the framing and the shot around all yourself. Not sure if I will yet, because it takes bleeding ages. It's a huge file, but I'll see. I am going to do exactly the same, I think, maybe even a little bit better, at Synthfest, which is next weekend. So yeah, so look out for that. But anyway, what did I see at Machina Bristronica that was of any use or interest or anything else? Well, first of all, I'm going to have to go through this on my camera, so I only took a couple of shots of things. But the first thing was Tiptop Audio was there, and I was able to ask him about their art thing, which was great, because there was a moment in the conversation where I thought, oh, I've got it, I understand. Now, I can't remember what that was now, but oh, god damn it. There was a moment there where I thought, yeah, this all makes sense. And a lot of it is to do with the confusion over the cabling and the technology that's in use, whether it's audio, whether it's digital, whether it's data, whether it's CV, all this kind of thing is sort of rolled into each other, because there's masses of confusion over the cables and the sorts of things that they're using, partly because they're using an audio patch cable to also carry data, or rather alternatively carry data. And that is just messing us up, because we see a patch cable, and we think, well, we know what that does, and now it doesn't do that. It's now doing something else, and so that's confusing. But what I did understand, I think, is that the big thick USB-C cables, which aren't, of course, USB-C cables, they just have USB-C ends in order to make things more complicated for ourselves. They purely carry up to 12 channels of audio. It's just audio. It's analog audio. You could take a bit off the side and solder something in, and you could potentially take off an audio channel from that cable. It's just an audio cable in a bizarre format. That's all it is. Whereas the actual ART signal is carried down a regular TS cable, a regular patch cable, and that is the thing that's carrying all the pitch and note information from things to oscillators or something. I don't know. So there's a couple of things going on. There's the ART system itself, which has nothing to do with polyphony, nothing to do with the polyphonic modules, which they also have. That's part of the system, but it's something slightly different. The ART thing in itself is the sending of note information, very much like MIDI, but higher resolution and more usable, perhaps more configurable, more modulated. I don't know, more something than MIDI. And it's that's connecting up different modules, which you can then use in a discrete polyphonic fashion, or just individually, one at a time, with perfect tuning. Or you can take those out and plug them into a polyphonic one, and then you've got polyphonic voices going through your Eurorack in a very compact cabling fashion. I've not explained that at all. I've realised now sitting here that I still don't really understand it. But as I say, there was a moment there because I was arguing with the Tiptop guy. It wasn't just that I was going, oh yeah, no, that's very interesting. I said, no, but that's not right, because this is this sort of cable. And how can you say that there's audio and data? That doesn't make sense, man. So I was pushing back against the lack of explanation, and I think I was able to tease out a couple of choice bits, which of course I've now forgotten. Next up was a new thing from RYK. I'm in the middle, actually, just over there, of reviewing the Night Rider, the 4-band, 4-filter bandpass thingamajig and bligs. And Jake from RYK has got a new module, which is similar to the Vector Wave, but is more deliberately, intuitively 4-operator FM. Did it have a name? I don't know that it did at the time. Oh, it might be called Algo. I don't know what that means. But it's, again, beautifully designed. 4 operators, carriers, modulators, that kind of thing. Beautiful display that shows you algorithms and bits and pieces that are going on, or you can just use it as 4 oscillators. It's a beautiful piece of work, and I'm looking forward to giving that a play. And the key with this one that Jake was very, very, very keen to get across was that it's one knob per function. It's none of this menu diving. It's no holding buttons and trying to do stuff. It's all just there on the front, which I think is great. But the design of these things, man, they're just so special. Next up was the VENO-LOOPER from Venus Instruments. Nice looking thing. It looked actually, initially I thought it was a complex oscillator, like 2 oscillators side by side. But no, it's actually a looper, more like the Instruo one, the tape thing that they've got, because it had these 2 circles which are filling up with stuff, and you can do overdubs, sound on sound, but you've also got 4 layers of stuff going on. Potentially, this is a prototype, and it's just a good looking, interesting. It seemed to be very surface level, easy to get into, very quick to grab a recording of something and then do interesting things, interesting tape style things with that. So that's currently under development and looks really interesting. And then there was the Atlas from Vostok. Now, Vostok seemed to be obsessed with multi-channel stuff. Lots and lots of things. Lots of VCAs, lots of envelopes, all in a single module, that kind of thing. And this is no exception. This is for multi-mode filters. And it's just beautifully put together. It's simple, it's minimalist, it has absolutely everything you need with an input and output, frequency and resonance, that kind of thing. 2 simple knobs, 4 channels of it, not overwhelming the space, lots of room for your fingers, lots of room for the patching, and also it has a scannable fader at the bottom, so you can use the whole lot together as like a single Uber filter, or you can use them independently, or they cascade from one to the other, whichever way you like, which is really nice. I like the way that's putting together different sorts of filter into one space. And also you've got 4 filters. I mean, you'd only need this module. You probably wouldn't need anything else in terms of filtering within a reasonable setup like this. So rather than having a filter here and a filter here, taking up huge amounts of HP, you could have 4 in one module and use them completely independently. I'm going to give Vostok Instruments a bit of a deeper look, I think. I visited with Crazy Town Stochastic Instruments, where they had their well, they're calling it strange things, which is quite fun. I quite like that. And this, it's going to be difficult to explain. No, I'm not entirely sure how to explain it. It looks like a quantizer or a sequencer. And what it actually is, it's something to do with manipulating phrases. So it's using stochastic stuff, again, stochastic randomness, which is kind of, it's not just random. Stochastic stuff tends to use the original value and moves on from that to a certain undetermined amount. So it's always not falling far from the original tree, but is moving on and backwards and moving on and backwards. It's sort of chaos to some degree in that kind of sort of a simple equation which is keeping it moving while creating these infinitely beautiful possibilities, I suppose. So what is this thing? Oh, I don't know. What is something to do? There was definitely something to do with Beethoven, or was it? No, I mean, I think rather than dealing with individual notes, which is what the stochastic instruments inspiration generator is dealing with as individual notes, this is dealing with a phrase. So you give it like a phrase, which is like a little tune. You give it a little tune, and then it uses that little tune and it kind of riffs on it. It kind of improvises around it. It moves that around, then comes back to it, and then moves it around again. I think that's the idea, and that is built into this sort of strange looking machine. I mean, I was talking to Finn about it, and I mean, he's a genius. Absolutely. And they've taken it far further than anyone ever would probably need to do, and packed a whole stack of functionality in here, which has got me thinking that I'm not really 100% sure whether a module with tons of versatility and functionality is necessarily what we want. In many ways, we're looking for a module just to do that one thing, well. Whereas this is teeming with stuff, and I'm wondering about that. I'm wondering whether that's the best course. And while I can appreciate that makes it super useful within a small case, I wonder whether that's really what we're after or not. I'm going to think on that some more and talk to him about it, I think. But ultimately, the phrase weirdness within it is fantastic and strange and definitely worth exploring. This is a funky looking box called PlayFader, pair of faders, bunch of colourful buttons in a nice colourful case, sits on your desktop, and it generates MIDI or generates CV, and you just throw it into stuff. You can quantize it, you can send it out at different ranges, and it's a very playful, very immediate, very right in front of you, grabbable, touchable way of sticking modulation into things, or controlling things, or recording things. You know, it's capable of all that sort of stuff through a combination of the fantastically coloured buttons at the bottom. So there's a bit of this about at the moment, sort of control and CV generation. Like I've got me Bella Gliss here, who were also there, who was able to talk me through some of the settings on it, which is fantastic. So I hope to do a review on that soon. But this PlayFader thing, it was just a lot of fun, and it was there and immediate. You didn't have to think about it. You weren't cramping up trying to get to it. It was just something that you could generate, and you can create sequences with, you can create all sorts of things with, and feed it into both MIDI and CV bits and pieces. Yeah, a lot of fun. I saw Manu from Befaco, who gave me all of these FX Boy things. I'm going to build the FX Boy. Oh yes, I am. They love it when I do that. I'm very adept at putting out all of the holes in their build manual. So yes, very soon I'm going to be building the FX Boy and be plugging these cartridges in to see what kind of noises that they make. Around to Gaz, and he gave me a bunch of these strange cable tunnels, I suppose, that he uses on his rig to keep the cables out of the way, to route them through interesting places. So yeah, I'm going to give that a bit of a go. A little bit of tidying is no bad thing as far as my rig is concerned. I was able to see Julia Bondar perform. She was fantastic. It was just, for me, I mean, I'm not a complicated person. I like things which are simple and straightforward. Often, I mean, I'll give complexity a go, of course, but you know, sometimes you just want to feel nice. And her set was just gorgeous. She had a single 7U case, I think it was, IntelliGel case probably, and she was she filled the place for 45 minutes, just playing and moving. And I mean, each song or each track was only about sort of five minutes long, and she was able to move from one thing to another. And I was watching, going, how is she doing that? How is she able to produce these textures? I mean, it wasn't like it was vastly different, everything. You know, it was using the same kind of tones, the same kind of filters and sounds and bits and pieces, but it was just nice. It moved and it shifted, and then it became something else, and it became something else, and then it became something else, all within this single case, and it was just blissful, absolutely lovely to listen to. And so this brings us quite neatly to summing up Bristronica. How was it? How did it work? Was it good? I mean, it was good, undoubtedly. I mean, it was full of joy and excitement and people who were just loving absolutely what was on offer there. You know, it was fantastically attended. It was busy, but not so much that you couldn't see. There was room, plenty of room, and you could get to things, and you just wait a little bit patiently. You'll get to talk to the person, you get to play on the gear. So it wasn't overwhelmed with people by any means. The venue was fantastic. It had all these different spaces. The outside space in particular I thought worked really well, with having DivKid there on his outside stage interviewing people. I mean, had it been raining, it might have been a very different experience, but as it was a nice day. The food was great outside. There was beer. Again, there was space. There was places you could sit down. And all of that worked really, really well. The live performance space was fantastic. All these lights on these pillars and stuff going on. It was very, very involving. You felt completely immersed in it, which was brilliant. The discussion rooms off to the side, ace, well attended, nice, looked after, out of the way of all the noise. The workshops on the side, good. You know, everything was just laid out brilliantly, and there was tons and tons of space that ultimately wasn't all packed in. I suppose that the thing that stuck out to me as being a punter there, although, you know, in some ways unusual, because I do attract conversation. Which is a lovely thing. So I'm not just sort of wandering around with my head down. I'm stopping and talking to people, which is nice, which is great. But that creates this difficulty where there was a number of things I would have liked to have seen. There were 2 or 3 of the discussions I would have liked to have seen. There was 2 or 3 of the live performances I would have liked to have seen. But I wasn't able to, because I was in the main hall talking to synthesizer people about their synthesizer things. So in some ways there's this slight difficulty when everything is done on the same day. You know, if you're going to spend a couple of hours doing a workshop, you're going to miss out on some of the discussions. If you're going to spend time talking to manufacturers, you're going to miss out on the interviews. If you're going to spend time in the live music bit, you're going to miss out on the data workshops. You know, there's lots of in putting everything on at the same time in the same place. You're inevitably going to find yourself missing out on something. And that just makes me wonder. That makes me wonder whether it should be a weekend. Would that make any difference? If they expanded it to a weekend, would that mean that there would just be more stuff that you would miss because it's all still on at the same time? Would it make any sense to have a day of seminars that's separate or different or on at a different time to the main show? That probably wouldn't make any sense at all. But then if it was 2 days, you would get the time to see perhaps all of the synthy stuff you wanted to see, and you'd be less concerned about taking an hour or a couple of hours to do a workshop or to see a discussion or just to spend some time chilling out in the live music venues. It's tricky. It is really tricky, because if it expands to 2 days also, that means everyone's got to stay longer. That's more expensive for the manufacturers, you know, and there's obviously the cost of the venue and the catering and all these other things come into play. It's just, you know, I was quite disappointed that I wasn't able to see some of the things I wanted to see. And often you're not entirely sure what it is that you would want to prioritise. You know, it's tricky to see. But heck, overall, other than the fact that I missed a couple of things that I would have liked to have seen, it was a fantastic day. It was really, really wonderful. And it went on late. Very, very late. There's this after show party that Milo Melodies was playing at, and other people too. And he was on at midnight. It went on till 4 a.m. I don't know how many of us old farts can cope with that kind of thing, but it was wonderful. It was good to be there. And Bristol is a very exciting town. Very exciting town. So there you go. So many congratulations to everyone who worked Machina Bristronica. You did a fantastic job. It was a great venue, a great day, and we lapped it up, absolutely lapped it up, and was exhausted by the end of it, having talked our asses off about synthesizers and heard all sorts of live music and understood and interacted with some discussions and heard some interviews. I just wish it could be stretched out into a much wider space so that we can take it all in. So yeah, fantastic. Well done. Next week, Synth Fest. I'm going to give it another go. I'm going to take my camera. I'm going to see what I come up with. See if I actually come up with some useful footage this time. I don't quite sure how to do that. Maybe this is not the thing that I thought it would be, but it is, if nothing else, it's a great way to pick up the vibe of a place, even if it's no good really for individually focusing on specific product. So there you go. I hope that was useful. In the meantime, go and make some tunes.